All right, we continue our discussion, right? Last time we talked about mass spring systems. Now we'll be talking about another kind of vibration, albeit it doesn't seem like a vibration, no? But based on our definition, it really is a vibration. Anything about an equilibrium point, we're talking about pendulums, right? So, say for example, we have here a ceiling from which we suspend what we call a bob. And also, what we have in here is our equilibrium position. So, if nothing is happened to the if nothing is happening to the pendulum, it will just be at its equilibrium position right here. This is a bob. This is the mass we see in pendulums, right? And say for example, we offset this bob at some angle theta. Let's say for example that this theta is small. We'll talk about why it's important that this is a small value of theta. So basically like something like less than 15 degrees. I know this is quite big, but I'm just over exaggerating because at this point when we let go, what will happen now is that the weight of the pendulum will take over. What do you mean the weight of the pendulum will take over? It's always there, yes. But if you now tilt your head like this, where will the pendulum travel? Right? The pendulum will travel because you're now tilting your head. You're seeing, oh, it's supposed to travel like this. Right? It's supposed to travel like that because, well, there is something holding the pendulum back besides the weight. Right? The weight, there you go. It will then travel down like this. Note that if you again tilt your head like this, right? This will be the weight of the pendulum. And now this thing right here would be its horizontal, or rather its vertical, how do I say this? It's normal. Yes, it's normal component. Weight, normal. And this would be its tangential. Tangential. Weight, right? So this is your weight. This is your weight tangential. And then this is your weight normal. Why am I saying things about normal and tangential forces? Is because the only thing keeping this rotating, or rather moving at a circular path, is the string. And the string offers a counter force. That counter force is the tension. But note that in this case, the tension is only capable of dispelling, or rather of countering, of balancing the normal weight, the normal component of the weight, right? Normal as in perpendicular, huh? Not even perpendicular, just yeah, perpendicular to the tangent. There you go. Right? The only thing keeping this together, or rather keeping the pendulum from falling directly down, is the fact that there's a string, right? And so, in essence, what we only detect from this pendulum is this kind of motion right here. And notice that because of the presence of the spring, this will continue changing direction every single time. It will move in a circular or an arc based motion. And just like before, notice that what happens to this thing, to this, shall we say, this force right here, this component right here, is that it gets smaller. Note that as it gets smaller, right, or sorry, as your theta gets smaller, this thing will get smaller and smaller up until a point where it lies completely flat. And at that point, there will be no more force. But again, force is equal to mass times, force is equal to mass times acceleration. Even if there is no more force available for this thing to move, or for this thing to change its acceleration, the thing is, it's still accelerating. It will stop accelerating here when it is at the bottom of the pendulum. This is where it's fastest, right? And so now, just like before, just like with the mass spring system, it will now climb back up. And with climbing back up, notice now that it will actually slow down. It will actually slow down. Look at this. So say for example, we were to follow, this weight right here, this weight right here, right? And now we look at it like this. There you go. There you go. Right? It will now consider, or rather, it will now go against, look at this, the normal force, or not normal, but the tangential weight, right, component. Note that in this case, the velocity, if you remember, this is the velocity, and the acceleration are now against each other. Oh, that means it will slow down. And it does. And it does come to a stop the same height. Again, we assume everything is frictionless, the same height that it started with. And then it climbs back down again, right? It falls back down, it gains speed, it then starts to slow down, and then it stops here again. And the cycle basically repeats itself, right? I can see that this just travels in a straight line, but let's just assume you guys are seeing this as if it were traveling in a circular path. Right? I know how to edit this now. This is just a quite an old presentation. Okay? And again, just like before, changes in the force affect the mass's motion. What are the ano though? What are the, I suppose, what are the forces now? Right? What are the forces now? Just like before, we have the mass times acceleration, or rather, we have force is equal to mass times acceleration via Newton's second law. And now we see that the only force acting on this thing is going to be apparently negative mg sine theta. Where is that supported? Well, say for example, something like this, right? Okay, let's just go back here. Something like this, what's going to happen now is we know that this thing right here, this full force right here is mg, that is the weight, right? And say for example, we can see these two components right here, they are separated by your right angle, and we know that this is your theta. That means that this thing right here is mg sine theta. This thing on the other hand will be mg cosine theta. We are only interested in this form, or rather in this tangential component in here, because that is what essentially matters based on the movement of your what do you call this, based on the movement of your pendulum, right? And notice that this is always going to go opposite, right, with the velocity, right? I mean, not every time, but what happens usually is that it will act in an opposing manner. Kaya ang mangyayari din is that, well, it will become negative, right? Note that in this case, right, the velocity is going to the left, but the acceleration in here is going to the right. They are opposing each other. And so that is why, right? That is why when we write this down, we write it down like this. There's going to be an issue though, right? Do you guys see the connection? Because I don't. Earlier, we were able to say that this thing is going to be second derivative of your position with respect to time. Where's the position? In this case now, we can think about this, what do you call this? This tangential acceleration as just going to be r, right? A radius times your acceleration, angular acceleration. Why are we now turning into angular acceleration? It's because, well, we were looking at the angles since earlier. Of course, there's a deeper meaning to this. We'll talk about this in quiz 2 with generalized coordinates. But suffice to say, we are now going to have to pivot into angles, right? Angles. And what's so different now? Oh, an angular acceleration is the derivative of your angular velocity. And your angular velocity is basically the derivative of your angular displacement. Oh, so now we have successfully turned this into something in terms of angles. But the big problem is this. What is your R? Right? What is your R in here? And hopefully the answer comes to you very quickly. Well, what is the radius of the circle that was traveling earlier? That the pendulum was traveling in earlier? It's the length of the string. So in this case, we are now able to turn this into mass times length of spring times theta double dot is equal to mass times gravity times sine of theta. And you can cancel the m's. You will get into this. L theta double dot is equal plus g sine of theta is equal to 0. Now you will see this is actually nonlinear. Note that nonlinear basically means, right, you cannot have something like this. Okay? And so that is where things get a little bit complicated. This is why we want to apply the condition that for sufficiently small angles, if we remember, sine of something is just kind of the same thing as that something itself. We will reduce it, we will simplify it for this to so that it looks like this differential equation. And notice it's similar, right? It's very similar to what we saw in the springs earlier. But now the signs have just changed, or rather the things that you put in here have just changed, right? Instead of mass, now this is length. Instead of spring stiffness, this is now just gravity. And notice that there is no m in this differential equation. What that means is that the mass of the pendulum bob actually doesn't matter. Okay, so it's very interesting. It kind of goes against our intuition, right? It might seem like a heavier thing will affect, right, the computations in here, but actually they don't, right? Which is very interesting. And I will say that because in problem 1.15, now we are seeing a mass weighing 2 kilograms being hung by a pendulum string that is 3 meters long. How long will a full cycle occur? How heavy should the mass be so that half a cycle occurs every second? How long should the string be so that this happens? Okay, so we will have a mass weighing 2 kilograms. Mass of 2 kilograms, and we will have a string that is of length 3 meters. Of course, we are already aware that G has something to do with this, so I will list down G in here just for reference. And we know that because this is a pendulum, L theta double dot plus G sine theta is equal to 0. But in this case, let's just try and make this very small, so this becomes a simpler differential equation. L theta double dot plus G theta is equal to 0. Now we can substitute our values. 3 theta double dot plus G 9.81 theta is equal to 0. And just like before, but we can do the same way, right? For us to understand how long a full cycle will occur, we need to get our natural frequency. Just like before, we can get our natural frequency by dividing both sides by the coefficient of the highest order term in here. We can do, before we even do this, just so we can get a generalization, is we divide both sides by L. Theta double dot plus G over L, theta, is equal to 0. And then, we will therefore define your omega n as G over L. Because at that point, we will go back to our definition earlier, and ang lalabas is ganyan. And just like the same thing, we will have your D is plus minus omega n I. So this will give you, again, an oscillatory function, right? This will give you a trigonometric function. And so the only thing that we need to find here is the period. And so let's just substitute, right? Our omega n in this case is square root of 9.81 divided by 3. Note that in this case, the mass has nothing to do with it. So if I'm going to put this in an equation, or rather in a calculator, 9.81 divided by 3, square root of that is 1.8083. 1.8083 radians per second. And we should turn this into revolutions. 2 pi radians per 1 revolution. We will have cancel. This, which if we now take the reciprocal, we get our period, which is 2 pi over 1.8083. 2 pi divided by that would give you 3.4746 or 475. That means a full cycle will cost us about 3.5 seconds. So that means going from here and then going to the other side and then going back will take us 3.475 seconds. Now, how heavy should the mass be so that half a cycle occurs every second? We just said earlier that oops, the whole equation is ml theta double dot plus mg sine theta is equal to 0. We canceled the m's. That means the mass doesn't matter. Right? The mass doesn't matter, which means this question is actually wrong. There is no answer to this. The answer to this is basically any mass. Hindi yun na yun. Yun na yun. Right? Even if that mass is going to be very light or very heavy, the cycle, or rather how long a cycle occurs, depends only on the string. How long should the string be so that this happens? Half a cycle occurs every second, which means a full cycle is 2 seconds. So now let's try and let's now try and reverse engineer this. Right? Let's reverse engineer this. Well, we know that we want the period to be 2 seconds. Isn't the period just 2 pi over your omega n? Yes, it is. And that means that you can, again, keep reverse engineering, right? Your omega n is square root g over L. So if you put it in the denominator, pabaligtad lang siya, right? Squared L over G. And you would know what G is. That's 9.81. So now you can shift solve. 2 is equal to 2 pi times square root of L over 9.81. What you will get is, I don't want to shift solve. Let's square both sides. We will get 1 equal to pi squared times L over 9.81. We will get is L is equal to 9.81 divided by pi squared. We will get 0.9939 or 0.994, shall we say. 0.994 meters. That is our length. And of course, we're only assuming here small angles. Okay. So that is how we talk about problems related to pendulums, right? Of course, we have discovered in here that the mass doesn't matter. Even if it goes against our intuition, that's what the differential equation says, right? And so, for the last bit, we will talk about torsion springs last, right? So here you go, there you go. That is the natural frequency of a pendulum square root of G over L. We will now finally talk about the torsion spring system for the last bit, right? And I recommend you guys might want to look up moments of inertia. That will be used later, but for now, thank you very much. I will see you then.